I was staring straight into Darren Lowe's smug little rat face when he said it. "We're restructuring, Nate. Your position's being dissolved. You've got a month. Oh, and you'll need to train your replacement. Jordan starts tomorrow." He leaned back in that overpriced chair like he was doing me a favor. I didn't blink. Got it. My voice was flat. Not because I didn't care. I cared way too much. But I wasn't about to give this clown the satisfaction. What boiled under my skin wasn't the layoff. Hell, I saw that coming. It was the insult of training some rookie to sit in my chair like he earned it. Darren smiled, tapped his Mont Blanc pen on the desk, and added, "Appreciate your professionalism." Like that was supposed to soften the blow. I gave him a stiff nod and stood up. Sure. He had no idea, no clue. I walked out of his office without looking back. Kept my steps steady, slow. If he'd paid any attention over the last year, he might have noticed I'd stopped caring about his petty power plays. Or maybe he thought he'd finally won. What he didn't know, what he couldn't even imagine, was that in less than 24 hours, legal papers would be filed that'd flip his whole world upside down. Because for the past 3 years, while he was busy golfing and gutting the company, I'd been building something else, quietly, strategically. I passed Tanya in the hallway. She gave me a quick glance, no words, just a flicker of understanding. Back in my office, I shut the door and stared out the window for a second. Downtown Boston looked cold and gray, kinda matched my mood. I sat down, looked at the old photo of Dale Lowe, the real boss, the one who built this company from the ground up. That man gave me a shot when I was nothing. GED, broke, green as hell. He made me director of R&D. He taught me how to lead. And when he died suddenly, Darren took over and started ripping everything apart. So yeah, today was the first swing in what Darren thought was his win. Too bad he didn't know I already owned the damn scoreboard. I opened my inbox, found Carla's message. "All filings prepped. You ready?" I hit reply. Let's flip the switch. That's when I made my move. Small at first. I bought shares through my retirement account, then a few more through an LLC. It wasn't enough. I needed distance, something cleaner. So I created NHK Holdings, just 3 letters, nothing flashy. I kept my name off it, ran it through a buddy's firm in Providence, then another in Chicago. Legal, quiet. Every time Darren made another dumb hire, I bought more. 5 months ago, a whale investor dumped his shares after a failed product demo Darren botched. That was my moment. I liquidated everything I could, maxed every angle I had, and snapped up controlling interest in less than 72 hours. 52%. Enough to call meetings, enough to make changes. Only 3 people knew. Carla, my attorney, sharp as hell, and ruthless when she needed to be. Russ, my guy in finance. We shared an apartment 10 years ago, back when we were broke and trying to outwork each other. And Tanya, HR head, truth teller, and probably the most loyal person I've ever met. We kept it airtight, no paper trail pointing back to me, no chatter, just forward motion. Carla handled the legal maze. Russ helped monitor transactions. Tanya, she kept the employee grapevine calm, even when the building felt like it was on fire. Darren thought I was just weathering the storm. What he didn't know was, I was laying the foundation to bury him in it. I hit print on Carla's message, stood up, and grabbed the file. Time to finish what I started. I was barely 2 steps through the office doors when I saw him. Tall, tan, early 30s, probably straight off some Miami rooftop bar. Jordan, designer stubble, hair styled like it took longer than my entire morning routine, and a suit I could tell cost more than my first car. He turned the moment he saw me. "Nate, right? Darren said I'd be shadowing you, said you knew the old system inside out." He smiled like we were old friends, then added, "But I've got some fresh strategies I think we'll be implementing soon." I held back a grin. This guy had no clue. None. "Great," I said. "Let's get started." I led him straight into the core systems. No fluff, no small talk. If I had to walk this idiot through the place I helped build, he was getting the real tour. The stuff behind the curtain Darren never understood. We hit the first floor R&D archive, and I pulled up prototypes and test data from the last 5 years. These were our base iterations for the FlexCore series. Took a 1.5 years to get that retention curve stabilized, and Jordan cut me off. Yeah, I skimmed some of that. Looks like you guys were playing it safe. Retention and refinement are outdated. Aggressive scaling is where it's at. Why fix something small when you can go big and break everything? I blinked. You think we stayed profitable for 12 years by breaking everything? He laughed like I was the idiot. Sometimes disruption means ignoring legacy thinking. Darren agrees. Of course he does. I kept moving, showed him our client integration roadmap. Multi-phase, clean, efficient, and already in use by 2 Fortune 100s. He nodded absently, then pulled out his phone mid-presentation and started swiping. I paused. You good? Just adding some notes. Might pitch a full rebuild of this interface, he said. No offense, it feels a little early 2010s. I stared at him. That interface holds a 93% retention rate, and it's ADA compliant. Still, he started, but my phone buzzed. Carla, filings complete, board notified, meeting at 11. I didn't react, just locked my screen and looked back at Jordan. Something wrong? He asked. Emergency board meeting. I've got to go. He looked around like I'd just abandoned a school tour. Wait, do I come with her? No, I said, already turning toward the elevators. You stay here. Read everything I showed you. Twice. I didn't wait for a response. He was still standing there, like a lost intern when the elevator doors closed. As I rode up, I loosened my tie and took a deep breath. The next hour wasn't going to be a meeting. It was going to be a reckoning. The elevator doors opened straight into the top floor. I stepped into the glass hallway, walked past the receptionist who didn't even try to stop me, and opened the boardroom doors without knocking. Darren was already inside, pacing like a caged dog. His phone was glued to his ear, voice raised, tone sharp. I don't give a damn what the bylaws say. This meeting wasn't approved. Shut it down. No, I said shut it down. He spun around when he saw me. What are you doing here, Nate? His voice cracked. This is executive only. Exactly. I walked past him and sat at the head of the table like I'd been doing it for years. His face twitched. He didn't sit, just stood there, gripping the back of his chair, trying to read the room. But there was no one else in it yet. Then the door opened behind me. One by one, they walked in. Elaine Foster, who'd been with the board since Dale's early days. Kevin Turner, quietly rich and even quieter in meetings. Janet Sanders, retired CFO, and the kind of woman who didn't suffer fools twice. A couple more I hadn't seen in person for a while. They nodded as they entered, but nobody said a word. Carla came in last, calm as ever, carrying a leather portfolio and a hard copy binder so thick it looked like it could knock someone out. Darren's voice went up an octave. Who the hell called this meeting? I turned to him. I did. The room went dead quiet. Carla stepped forward and started passing out documents. As of this morning, NHK Holdings owns 52% of low-tech systems, she said. Full SEC filings attached. Darren snatched one of the folders, scanned the front page, then looked at me like I'd stabbed him in the back. Darren looked down, flipping pages like he'd find a typo that would save him. The silence in the room turned heavier by the second. You could feel the shift, like the air itself knew what was coming. You don't know what you're doing, he said, pointing across the table. This company needs leadership, real leadership. Dale built this place with purpose, I said. You turned it into your frat house. You're done. Janet cleared her throat. I moved to vote on the immediate removal of Darren Lowe as acting CEO. Elaine nodded. Seconded. Darren's mouth opened, but nothing came out. All in favor? Janet asked. Hands went up, fast, firm, without hesitation. All opposed? Silence. Carla stepped aside and motioned to the 2 security guards waiting by the door. Darren backed up, holding his hands out like they were going to cuff him. I'll sue, he said. You think I'll just disappear? This is a hostile takeover? No, Carla said, shutting her binder. It's a correction. They escorted him out. He barked something at the receptionist on his way past, but she just turned back to her monitor like he'd never existed. The boardroom stayed quiet after the door clicked shut. I didn't smile, didn't gloat. I just looked at the seat Darren used to occupy, empty now, exactly where he belonged. The door hadn't even cooled from slamming behind Darren when I called Tanya. Jordan, I said, let's clean that up first. She didn't even need me to explain. I walked straight back to my office. He was there, sitting in my old chair, scrolling through a slide deck on a tablet like he already owned the place. Kid had no clue what just happened 5 floors up. I knocked once on the frame. He turned all smiles. Hey, hope the meeting went well? I had a couple more suggestions I wanted to run by you. I stepped inside. Your contract's not finalized, right? He blinked. Not yet. Darren said it'd be... Then we're done here. His posture straightened, the confidence dropped a notch. Sorry, what? You were brought in under a former administration, I said. We're changing direction. No need for transition now. He paused, searching for words, maybe an angle. But there wasn't one. Oh, he said finally. Okay. I held the door open. Best of luck. He walked out without a fight, which told me all I needed to know. Even he knew he didn't belong. That night, Tanya and I camped in the HR office with 2 pizzas, 3 pots of coffee, and a stack of files that looked like they hadn't been touched since Dale passed. We dug in. We flagged names we knew. One's Darren buried. One in particular jumped out. Thomas Wong, senior engineer, quiet guy, brilliant, owned 2 patents that sat unused because Darren's team didn't understand the tech. I called him personally the next day. Thomas, it's Nate. We're rebooting the engine. You in? Didn't even hesitate. Just tell me when. We brought him back in, gave him full authority over platform architecture. He showed up the next morning with a whiteboard sketch already half filled. Then came Layla Monroe, supply chain optimization, criminally underused. I put her over procurement. Russ reworked the budget so we could fund Dale's old mentorship program. I asked Tanya to lead it. She didn't even blink. We turned the corner suite Darren used as a personal golf shrine into a prototype lab again. Took down the mounted driver sets, trashed the signed photos. Replaced it with blueprints, testing equipment, and whiteboards that stayed covered in notes. In 2 weeks, everything changed. People stayed late, not because they had to, because they wanted to. You could feel the difference in the halls, laughter, meetings that ended with ideas instead of eye rolls. The parking lot wasn't half empty by 5 anymore. I moved into the CEO office. Didn't bother with expensive art or some designer makeover. I just stripped it down. Neutral paint, standing desk, 2 chairs across from mine, no couch, no ego wall. This wasn't a throne, it was a workstation. I didn't want power, I wanted progress. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like we were finally back to building again. I barely had the new office chair adjusted before the rumors started. Hostile takeover. Company in chaos. Nate doesn't know what he's doing. All Darren's words, spread through his golf buddies, old vendors, and some leftover loyalists who hadn't gotten the memo yet. He even posted some vague crap on LinkedIn, playing the victim. Called me the technician who hijacked the ship. Cute. Then the lawyers showed up. His, not ours. Filing requests, sniffing around paperwork, trying to poke holes in Carla's filings. She was ready, met them head on. All documents are public. SEC has them. Check for yourself, she told one smug associate. And tell Darren next time to hire someone who can read a quarterly. He tried harder after that. Started calling up old clients, whispering that we were unstable, changing hands too fast, bleeding talent. A couple smaller ones flinched, pulled back deals, paused orders. But the big ones, the ones that mattered, they didn't budge. Instead of reacting, we doubled down. Tanya and I set up back-to-back meetings with every major partner. I didn't send reps. I showed up myself. We're not drifting, I told them. We're finally driving. I walked them through our plans. The next-gen platform we were weeks from rolling out, the revamped R&D process, the staff we brought back. Gave them early demos, first looks, beta access. They saw the fire was back. Carla handled the press. She didn't hide the transition. She leaned into it. We're returning to innovation, she said in one interview. Our founder believed in building. That's what we're doing. It landed. The phrase stuck. Articles stopped calling it a takeover, started calling it a revival. And Darren, the louder he got, the more desperate he looked. People could smell it. Even his hang-on friends started backing away. Posts dried up. The calls stopped. He wasn't blacklisted, but no one wanted to be tied to a sinking brand. And that's what he'd become. One afternoon, Russ came into my office holding a stack of vendor updates. Guess who finally stopped calling the leasing department? I looked up. Darren, he said, grinning. I leaned back in the chair. Took him long enough. Still think he'll try anything else? He might, I said. But it won't matter. Russ was right. Darren never tried again. 6 months later, low-tech wasn't just surviving. We were punching through ceilings. Profits were up 37%. Employee turnover dropped like a rock, nearly cut in half. We weren't just back. We were better, stronger, sharper. And the big win? The launch. We rolled out the new platform, Dale's old dream. An AI-integrated design suite that had been shelved the second Darren took the wheel. He called it unscalable and confusing. That was his word, confusing. Turns out customers wanted confusing, because what we gave them wasn't cute charts or flashy gimmicks. It was raw horsepower with real results. Machine learning-assisted design, instant integration across workflows, scalable infrastructure with smart fault tolerance. Every major account jumped on it. Beta users doubled in the first month. By the second, we had licensing offers from 2 international firms. I didn't celebrate. Not really. Just got back to work. Dale taught me that. Celebrate in output, not volume. We brought back people who'd been pushed out or ignored, gave them labs, teams, budgets, no red tape, just freedom to build. I sat in on brainstorms when I could, but I never hovered. That wasn't the point. The biggest shift came during the first town hall. Same room where Darren used to lecture us like we were interns. He'd stand at the front with his fake smile and say things like synergy and entrepreneurship, while the rest of us counted ceiling tiles. This time, we flipped the whole setup. Chairs in a circle, whiteboards on every wall, no slides, no speeches. I stood up front, kept it short. "What do you need to do your best work?" I asked. "Tell me, no politics, no spin, just say it." Hands went up, fast. People actually wanted to speak. Designers pitched ideas. Engineers threw out bottlenecks they wanted fixed. Someone in customer support asked to shadow the dev team to give better feedback loops. And we said yes. Tanya pulled me aside after everyone cleared out. We were both still holding half-full paper cups of bad coffee. She looked me in the eye. "You know Dale would have backed you every step of this. This is what he wanted." I didn't say much, just nodded. That was how Dale was. Low talk, high output. He didn't hand out praise like candy, but when he gave it, it stuck. I thought about that first sketch I'd shown him all those years ago. Hand-drawn, sloppy, full of gaps. He didn't laugh. He pointed at a broken section and said, "This part's useless. Fix it and come back tomorrow." So I did. That's what this whole journey felt like, fixing the broken part. And now? We were moving again, not on memory, on momentum. The kind that doesn't come from titles or stock options. It comes from building something people actually believe in. That night, I stayed late. Lights off, just the desk lamp. I opened the original project folder, the one labeled Dale Suite that had collected digital dust for almost 4 years. I didn't touch anything, just looked at it. Then I clicked Archive and moved it into the completed section. Not the end of the road, just the beginning of the one he started. A year to the day after Darren tried to fire me, I stood on stage under the same lights he used to hog during company meetings. Only this time, the room was full. And not with silence or tension, but energy. Good energy. We'd brought on 140 new hires in the last 12 months, expanded our teams, launched pilot programs with 4 trade schools across the Northeast, built out paid internships that didn't just fill gaps. They created futures. And the tech, it wasn't just living on laptops anymore. Cities were using it in infrastructure builds, real-world integration, real impact. I looked out over the crowd. Engineers, developers, support staff. Some new, some who'd been here longer than I had. Tanya was in the front row. Russ sat next to her. I saw familiar faces from Dale's era, people I thought we'd lost for good. And something shifted in my chest, something I hadn't felt in a long time. "This isn't just business anymore," I said into the mic. "We're not just making products, we're building futures, and that starts with how we treat each other." Applause, not forced, not polite, real. I glanced down. Tanya smiled at me like she already knew what I was about to say next. Russ gave me a small nod, solid, steady, the same one he used to give before big pitches. I returned it, no words needed. Afterward, I walked back to my office. It still wasn't flashy. Same standing desk, same 2 chairs across from mine. But there was one new thing waiting on the wall. I hung up a photo. Me, Dale, and some of the old crew from a decade ago. All of us sweaty and grinning at the end of a 20-hour sprint on our first product. Next to it, another shot. Last month's company, BBQ. Kids, dogs, beer coolers, and whiteboards. That night, just before shutting down my laptop, I got an email. From Carolyn Lowe, Dale's widow. Nate, Dale always said you were the future. Thank you for proving him right. I sat there for a second, just staring at the words, not smiling, not crying, just feeling it land.